The Constitution.
Constitution.
They figured I needed to.
Okay. Is Melissa here tonight?
Norm?
I'm sorry? Yeah. So you're here. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're on it. Okay. Good evening. It's always nice to see people in the crowd when they can be at home watching online. So thank you for coming
I'm
tonight.
watching football, but
Who is watching football?
I'm not watching football.
Okay, just to be clear, right. And welcome to the people that are watching online. So I so appreciate the community engagement in what we're doing. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you that are engaged on a regular basis, and we appreciate you being here. So as we get started tonight, we have the privilege of having Monty Sears here, pastor at Christian Faith Center, and he is going to open us in prayer. So let's stand as Monty leads us.
Thank you. Would you please bow your heads? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening in Jesus' name. And Father, we thank you that all elected officials are ordained by you. You are the one that raises up, and we thank you for your sovereignty. Father, I pray that you give wisdom. And Lord, we just trust you. The Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3, call upon me, and I will answer you, and I'll show you things that you could never figure out on your own. So Father, may the wisdom of God be evident. And Lord, we thank you for this wonderful community, Nampa, Idaho, one of the greatest communities in all the nation. Would you bless this meeting, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Monty. Let's start with roll call.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Bruner,
Here.
Hogaboom,
Present.
Levi,
Present.
Haverfield,
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Okay, so proposed amendments to the agenda. We have a couple of amendments, and that is, we have 3 items. Item 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 are postponed, and so we will be removing them from the agenda. Is there anything else any other amendments, proposed amendments to our agenda? Okay. If not, we will move on to included in the agenda amendments. I don't think we need a separate vote. So would anyone like to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda as read with the deletions of those 3 items.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? And roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Bruner,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Levi.
Yes.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the opportunity for some proclamations, and we have 2 proclamations this evening, and we're going to start with our first proclamation, which is Constitution Week. And I'm going to read the proclamation, and then we're going to have Chantel West come forward and speak to us for just a minute. Our first proclamation, whereas September 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2018 to be Constitution Week. in Nampa, Idaho, and we ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals that the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. That is a wonderful proclamation. Chantel, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of the Idaho chapter of Daughters of the American Revolution, I want to thank you and the city council members for this proclamation on the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution. The landmark idea that men had an unalienable right as individuals to be free and live their lives under their own governance was the impetus of the American Revolution. Therefore, we urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American. We also, in celebration of Constitution Week, encourage all individuals to fly their flag. We ask that Madam Mayor and the City Council members join us in ringing of the bells across America so that the bells of freedom will be heard from coast to coast on this wonderful anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to bring this to our attention. We appreciate it. Thank you. And we have another proclamation, and I'm going to read that proclamation, and then we'll have Jean come forward. So this next proclamation, whereas in recent months, our community has faced tragic losses due to youth suicide. In fact, Idaho ranks between 4th and 8th each year in the United States for the highest number of youth suicides. Whereas behavioral health issues are complex, but we want to elevate kindness in our community so people feel more connected, respected, and valued. Whereas through public awareness and participation, Nampa seeks to strengthen our community through kindness. And whereas we are asking businesses and schools to join us in encouraging children and adults to be more compassionate as a result of the awareness raised during Kindness Week, and show support by wearing special Be Kind t-shirts or wristbands. Whereas the Boys and Girls Club, through its collaboration with St. Luke's Children's, St. Alphonsus Nampa, and Plexus, are joining together to promote community kindness through a unified approach in our community. I, therefore, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim September 24th through the 29th in the City of Nampa as Kindness Week. Jean, would you like to come forward? And I'll give you, here's your official proclamation that you guys can pass on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kling and council members. Good things happen in our community when we're kind. It's really important that our youth, our adults, anybody of any age feels connected and supported. So the goal through that week is to make sure that every kid in Nampa, every child, understands who their trusted adult is so they know where to go when they need help. So wear your band, hashtag 2C kindness. Thank you.
I'm Amy Stahl, and I'd like to thank Paula Keller, our superintendent, for declaring this next week, Kindness Week. There are activities going on at all the schools in the city of Nampa, and we greatly appreciate her support. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I love the words. It's the Unified School District, the Nampa Unified, right? And the word in here that says through a unified approach, and we were just in a meeting prior to this that talked about Nampa being a community of unity. And I love that. I want to commend you guys for your vision, and Melissa and the Boys and Girls Club for their vision. It's wonderful. And thank you to the Daughters of the Revolution. Thank you for your awareness. You know what? It's this kind of work that makes us community, right? So thank you very much. What a great way to start a city council meeting. What do you think? I like it.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Jean, we don't have any of those bracelets.
We'll fix that.
Copy.
I have one,
Oh, do you?
yeah.
I have one.
But I showered and took it off. One week.
That's way too much
Oh,
information.
thank you.
I have one. I don't know. Thank you. Thank
Do
you.
we have that proclamation, or did I just miss it in our agenda?
No, we do, I don't think we have this one on our agenda,
Can
but
we
I'll get a
get
copy
a
for you.
copy of that? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Gene.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
In fact, Kristen, I may have you make copies of this and give it to all the council members before they leave tonight, if you don't mind. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda.
Does that fit around your wrist?
I think we about got it done.
You better give me the orange.
And I have two already, so, thank you. Yeah.
Did you pay $2? Those are Boise State colors.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item or a non-agenda item. And this is the time that we have for 3 minutes, so go ahead and come forward, and if you could please state your name, your address, and if you're speaking on an agenda or non-agenda item.
My name is Ed Salvi. I represent Jalopy Jungle at 3931 Garrity Boulevard, and this is a non-agenda item. Over the years, we have been heavily involved in the community in a lot of different ways. And years ago, we used to handle all the impounded and abandoned vehicles for the city. We put a bid in several years ago to continue this and were rejected. Our bid was significantly cheaper and offered free towing to the city, but our rejection was based on the fact that the current provider was already towing for free. And there was no consideration given to the cost to the citizens who own the vehicles. That's remained in place, and over time we've tried to correct it, but we haven't been able to get it done. So I thought I'd take a minute and bring it to your attention. What does this actually cost? Well, attached is a bill that we received on a vehicle that we were towing, and it broke down. And it got picked up before we could go get it. It was about a quarter of a mile from our yard. And if you'll notice, the first attachment, that is the bill. It was towed 9 miles outside of the city. The bill was $290. It was towed in at 7 o'clock and was timed out at 8:30. We had no choice but to pay the bill. Had we not done it, we were faced with the potential judgment, and that's the normal course of business when it comes to this type of activity. We think that there's a better way. We feel that this is wrong in many ways. It hasn't been reviewed in years. We think the citizens are being overcharged. We think the risk of judgment of being filed is unreasonable. Vehicles are being towed outside of the city, which adds to the mileage charges that are attached to these bills, and if anybody's had a car towed, it's part of the process. The yard is next to impossible to locate. The last attachment is the driveway into the existing yard that's towing your vehicles. It's approximately a quarter of a mile off of Nampa Caldwell Boulevard on a private road. I think it's Hoffman Lane, and if you're not familiar with it, you'd have a little trouble finding it. That's where our vehicle was when we went to get it. The provider is not within the city limits and is paying no city taxes. And we as a business in the city are very willing to do it. Had this been done in the city of Garden City, where we also have a business and are providing that service and have for years, the cost would have been $75. Confiscated vehicles is another portion that's involved in this. In the past, we have been able to buy these vehicles. They often are a result of the police through drug seizures or whatever. We don't know how they're being disposed of, and we're not having a chance to bid on them. We are a licensed dealer, and we would like to do it, at least bid on them. 25 years ago, Norm Home approached us to allow annexation into the city, and out of what we thought good citizenship and the sense that we would be treated with that the city with our best interests, we agreed to it. I'm hoping it was not a mistake. We continue to do our part. Our taxes are $90,000 a year on the properties that we have on Garrity Boulevard. And recently we find that the city has de-annexed a competitor, which has given them a significant financial advantage. We also know that we have this abandoned vehicle process. Now we have another competitor that he's been able to start up with the cars that are being provided. A portion of his inventory are being provided. We would like to do this. We would provide the same service we provide Garden City, and we are guaranteeing that the citizens will be better treated and the city would not be disappointed. I'd stand for any questions and welcome any comments.
Well, Madam Mayor, Ed?
Yes, sir.
We've not met before, but this is of interest to me, and if you just take that and contact me at your convenience. Thank you.
Can I give him my architectural card too?
I think you know him.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Mayor Kling, if I could.
Yes.
Mr. Salvi, this is not your bill that's attached, or is it?
It is. That's the bill we received back in a couple of years ago on a vehicle that we were towing from Edmark Chevrolet. The
Okay.
bill doesn't have our name on it because they just draw it up. They claim they don't know who owns the vehicle, but they contacted us and said they had it.
I see. Is your competitor that's picking up these vehicles, they live here in Nampa, or are they out of city?
They're out of the city, located out of the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're off of Hoffman Lane. I think the address is correct.
So they're in Nampa?
No. Hoffman Lane, I believe, well, I know it exists. Do you know where All Hours Towing is?
No.
All Hours Auto Salvage on Nampa Caldwell Boulevard? Been there. Hoffman Lane borders them to
Oh,
the Caldwell side.
I
It's that
see.
private drive that goes back across the railroad tracks where this business is located.
They're in the county.
Yes, sir, I think that's correct.
I see. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
I had an opportunity in a train car this last week to talk to Chief Huff. I don't know if he's still, no, he's not, about this issue. And I just broached the subject with him because I've known Ed for several years, and they have a very reputable business. And I assume your towing yard would be on Garrity there at Jalopy
We
Jungle?
would impound these cars right on Garrity Boulevard.
Okay.
We have adequate space and it's a fenced-in, secured facility.
Sure. And so we had a good conversation about it. It is a difficult, Canyon County Towing, I believe, is the current, they have the current contract,
I don't think that's the name of it. I think it's Crossroads.
Crossroads.
Is that correct?
Yeah. The issue that currently exists is they're offering for zero as well to tow city vehicles. But the issue with the citizens of Nampa is they're having to go outside the city limits to try to find a yard, paying exorbitant amount of money to get their vehicles back or losing the title. So I think in following up on it, Joe Ramirez with the police department followed up and contacted me after talking to Marin about the issue. And I understand that the RFP is up for renewal in October. Is that correct? Yeah. So the timing's good.
Good.
So that as a council, we can put this back out for consideration of not only Canyon County or Crossroads, but city businesses like Ed's. So timing's good.
My comment would be, why would the city be interested in contracting someone outside of the city when you have people within the city willing to do it? If we would be competitive. That just seems to me the fiduciary proper thing to do. But hopefully that'll have some consideration when the time comes.
I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item this evening? Okay, seeing none. Mayor, council comments. I think the only comment I would like to make is that as the council, and I didn't send this to you in advance in an email, you'll see different items that are on the consent agenda tonight. And so those are items, I'd like you to feel free, if there's an item that you have a concern about, you're welcome the night of the council meeting to say, we ask that we pull that off a consent to where you can have an opportunity to talk about it. The criteria, and I'm trying to find my sheet real quickly. Basically, these are items that, especially if it's something going to bid, that you will be actually approving at a later date. There are a number of different items, and I will send that criteria to you because I don't happen to have it in front of me at the moment, but I'll send it to you. And I just wanted to let the council know you're always welcome. If there's something that you want to talk about, please just ask that it be removed. So I don't think I have any other comments. Does council have any comments this evening? Randy?
Just one. I was hoping, I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit. The Nampa Development Corporation will be signing the final paperwork tomorrow on the sale of the half block. that is a very exciting thing to have happen. So that will require an input of value into that half block of about $2.7 million of taxable value. So it's a very positive thing to have happen. So I'm not trying to nix it, but we're keeping our fingers crossed everything will go through at the title company tomorrow.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you for that update. Are there any other council comments?
Mayor Kling, if I could. Over the last, I think it was Friday, we, some of the council members, I think Mayor Kling and Darrell was there. I think that was it. Sandy was out of town, and I think Bruce, you were out of town. No, last Thursday, with Mission Aviation. And got to meet Mr. Bills there and all the work he's done out there. They actually would like for us to go out and do and see a tour with Mission Aviation and what they do all over the world, and they're based here in Nampa. So I said, I advised the CEO, the new CEO, that I would advise the council and the mayor that one of these days we'll go out and have a good time with them and tour see what they do and tour the facilities, and they even said they'd take us in an airplane ride, and so I went, well, cool. So, but anyway, that invitation I want to extend to you all as well.
Great. Thank you, Victor. Are there any other council comments tonight?
Madam Mayor, just quickly, we're aware that you are going to Washington DC coming up, and we wish you, I'm sure we all wish you well. I do. I wish you well and every success at every contact that you make, and enjoy the trip.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to it. It's an honor to go. It's the first time the women mayors of the United States have been asked to join the White House in discussion. They're going to brief us on various issues and have roundtable discussions and listen to panel discussions, so I look forward to that. And also meeting with our congressional delegation and some other agencies while we're there, so thank you. Appreciate that. We have another communications piece this evening, and that is, this is where we have an agency or an external communication, and David Bills has asked that he have an opportunity to communicate with us regarding a planned unit development. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Coming before you tonight, a little bit of precursor. Wanted to bring Council up to date, a little bit of what's going on wearing the real estate and developer hat at this point in the agenda. And so, by background, wanted to give you an idea that over the last 2 to 3 years, in talking with customers as well as being approached by friends, they continue to ask about a housing product that does not exist necessarily in the marketplace. It exists in just a key couple of spots, and as a result of a particular plat being modified by development agreement and approved some 10 plus years ago, then we've seen some of that, and that's Lava Springs. But by and large, the product that is being contemplated, asked for, is not allowed by certain jurisdictions based on the ordinance. Part of it is a lack of knowledge and understanding, and otherwise it's also decisions that are made by the policymakers. And so it's important in my mind, before bringing a plat before planning and zoning and this body that is totally different than your ordinances and requires a development agreement that would have several exceptions, to garnish a little bit of input, some feedback, some discussion regarding this. And what we're talking about then is basically what we refer to as turnkey buyers or lock and leave. This is a segment of society, housing is changing and our society is continuing to change, who says, I want to drive home, pull in my garage, I live in my house, and when I leave, I'm gone either to work, my activities, or my travel. Sometimes I'm in town for a week, and sometimes I'm gone for a month. But the typical single-family house that is currently being built, being approved plat-wise, doesn't fit this buyer. This buyer is asking for the ability to have a different product. Namely, they don't want to take care of exterior yard. They don't want to worry about that. And you say, well, yes, but Similar to what's on my street, at least 5 different landscape companies show up on my street to maintain other people's yards. One guy gets 5 houses at one shot on Wednesday. Come see, come saw. Some get fertilized, some don't. People are asking for a plan unit development, some concepts different that allow for the HOA to maintain the entire subdivision, both the individual's property as well as the common areas. Furthermore, the marketplace is saying, we don't want all that yard to take care of. We'd really like to have a smaller home site. And in so doing, we still want our 14 to 2,200 square foot home. We still want our 2 or 3 car garage. But when we come, we just want to live at home. We want to leave. We don't want to worry about this. The other part that comments are coming up, and this is with my real estate brokerage hat on, is the folks when you show a house and they wonder, well, why is this backyard so wet? And you look over the fence and you see an inch of water laying in the adjoining 2 neighbors. It's because they overwater. And I've dealt with it as an HOA president, as a developer. You go to folks and say, would you turn down your clock? Oh, I don't water. Well, can I just go look at your clock? Oh, it's not necessary. Well, just indulge me a minute to go look at the clock. 3 times a day, 7 days a week, the water's coming on. Oh, but I don't water that much. So the idea is to also, which is an exception, is to go to pressurized irrigation that is serving not only the private, but also the common area. Doing it similar to an apartment complex where you take care of 4 to 6 lots and common area by 1 sprinkler service line. So I've had conversations both with Robert and Daniel. I've been raising the issue for the past 9, almost 12 months about we need to start looking at different things. Well, you can apply under this Chapter 27, the subdivision deal, and then ask for exceptions. You can go under the PUD side and ask for exceptions, but there's nothing in our ordinance that is going to accommodate what you're wanting to do. Furthermore, there's the challenge of code allowing for the sprinkler system and the being billed to the HOA and setting this up. And you say, well, yeah, but we do townhomes and we got apartments and so forth. Well, candidly, this buyer doesn't want the townhome. They don't want the common wall firewall. There's an aversion in the marketplace for how many buyers want to buy that particular product. But they'll buy a patio home, and they'll buy a patio home on 4,000 square foot lot. And it may be a 5,000 square foot lot. But currently, right now, the ordinance only allows for 6,000. Very little 6,000 has been improved in the last 24 months at Nampa. Most of it has been 7,000 or 8,500 lot size, catering to the ordinance asking for an average of 8,000 plus or minus lot size. So therefore, you get these home sites that are 53 to 63 wide by 130 deep. Now you got the huge backyard. The buyers want the home, they love the home, they look at that backyard and say, what am I supposed to do with that? Put a fence all the way around that? What do I do? We're not out in the yard. So there's a time that has come, and there's a need in the marketplace to start allowing for 4,000, 5,000. That's 50 by 80 lot. That's a 50 by 90 lot. And you say, well, David, oh boy, that's gonna jam them in. But here's the caveat of the PUD. You should take the standard 70 by 100 lot, take that 130 deep lot, and you go to an 80-foot building lot, 4,000 square feet. Behind it, instead of adjoining that same lot from the other block, you now use that space, that 50 feet off of each of those 130, or 20 or 30 feet off of each of those 100 deep lots. And you create greenscape and walking paths in the community. That's what buyers are wanting. They want the greenscape. They don't want the backyards. And so there's other ways to do it, but right now if we bring you a PUD, you need to know the background. It takes $7,000 to $15,000 to start due diligence on a piece of bare land, from the time that we have it under acquisition to the time of just making a decision, do we submit a plat? If we decide to submit a plat, then we're anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 into the cost to get moving forward, and upwards of $45,000 to $50,000 depending on the complexity of the project. And so there was a time when I could be in these hearings and listen to council discussions. I attended planning and zoning meetings over the years and continued to listen to discussions. I had a pretty good idea what was going to be approved, what was being looked for, spent time with staff and asked their questions. They'd give response, here's what we've seen, here's what's been approved. But right now I'm a little gun shy because it seems like there's a shift in terms of policy, which projects get approved, what happens when somebody brings a mixed use or a planned unit development in for approvals. Planning and zoning is recommending approval. Council has denied. Council has reconsidered. I don't need to regurgitate what's happened, and it's not a dig one way or the other. It's just, here's a person saying, do I put out a great deal of money to bring something forward that now doesn't comply with your ordinance, but the marketplace is asking for? So I thought it was important to come to you, start explaining what's happening, and to explain here's the need. There's two avenues, and wanting to see some feedback. One is do you even want to see these type of plats? Do you want to see this type of home product come forward and be considered in the city of Nampa? It's okay to say no. Then at least the development community knows we don't want that. Your neighbor to the west has pretty well said, no, we're going to stay with what we want, and we want to use those 40-acre, 80-acre plats for large lots and very little density. I don't think that's good use of land, but that's the decision. You know that's going in. Nampa has used development agreements the last 10 or 12 years, possibly even back to 99 when we brought the Islands community forward. And so the development agreement has been clarifications and been used for exceptions. But sometimes some people go, well, why did he get approved and I got turned down? And so it's brought sometimes more subjectiveness to the equation. It'd be important to hear, yes, this idea is there, and we're open to seeing a plat ahead of staff changing ordinances or proposing changes to the ordinance. But at the same time, it may be that council would say, no, we'd prefer to wait and see those things brought forward from staff. We'd like to consider it. We'd like to roundtable it. And then we would consider plats hereafter. Again, it's not a right or wrong. It's where do we stand before we spend a great deal in starting to bring stuff forward. And it would be most helpful to get some feedback or to answer any questions that you might have on this subject. Again, to kind of get the discussion going. Staff is working on revisions within your ordinance, but some of those revisions, again, are helpful, but they're not really to the point of what the marketplace is calling for. And Madam Mayor, I appreciate the time, and council, I appreciate taking a few minutes and listening, but would certainly answer questions or solicit your feedback to the comments here this evening.
I would like to start by saying that David Bills and I had this discussion, and I've been aware for, I think, a number of months of the desire and the need for what he's talking about. I do support the request, and I believe we have begun looking at the language in the ordinance. I think you pose a very good question. And the question is the council open prior to an ordinance change to looking at what David Bills is requesting? And the reason I say that is that as we do our strategic planning initiative and we review our comprehensive master plan and our land use map, I think this path, it can be a parallel path, but we don't want to wait till we're done, in my opinion, to review the ordinance. I think what he's suggesting is a very good idea. We have been hearing with the growth in our community that there's a large number of people that are coming in and they're looking for exactly what David is suggesting. And people are wanting walking paths, open green space, and actually maintaining smaller yards. And so I think it's wise of us as a community to adjust our ordinance so that we can accommodate the need that we have with some of the planned subdivisions. So I just wanted to let you know my feeling on it. And the question is so that you can move forward, right? You don't want to pause too long and go to the expense of putting something before the council if the council is like, no, we're not interested right now. So I think this is a good discussion. And Randy, I think you'd like to speak. Go
Well, as David was talking, I was envisioning some of the urban land planning projects that I've been involved with over the years, and a great example of something very similar to what he was talking about was a housing development that we were involved with in downtown Eagle. And Eagle is one of the strictest and most demanding planning and zoning related entities that I've had to deal with. The landscaping requirements, even the architectural character is defined there, and smaller lots, area in between that is a common area that all can share, pathways that circulate in and around that, and this is in the heart of downtown Eagle. Another development that we were involved with is next to Bishop Kelly High School on Franklin Road, which is a planned unit development. Again, non-conforming lot sizes, limited frontages, but a little higher density. But if it's done right, it is one of the most attractive developments that I've been involved with over the years as well. So I can see it being very beneficial. And when you look at the lot size, that's ownership versus the lot size with the blend of the landscape area along with it. The average is bigger, but the lot size is smaller, which falls in line with what people want to buy and be responsible for, and the balance of it's under a joint maintenance agreement. So I'm all for it. I think I think it can be done well. I think it could be misused too if it's not managed properly.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
and David, I'm totally in favor of
Go
looking
ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you, looking at this. But, so as far as the developer, as far as the paths, the green area and so on, that would be the developer's responsibility in your estimation?
Correct. So we have a property under contract, we have layouts, we've been doing the initial due diligence, but I didn't want to bring a specific plat forward.
Understand.
We're held up at the moment off of some other issues unrelated to this particular discussion at the moment. However, our layout is such that your backyards don't connect to an adjoining homeowner backyard. You have greenscape between you, and in some areas you have greenscape between the clusters of lots. And so then you have access with walking paths there. On this particular one, even some properties, infill-wise and otherwise, you have the opportunity to create greenscape between the border of the subdivision and the single-family lots. And so you create some perimeter landscape as well. And I believe the buyers today are moving, not all, but a percentage are moving towards wanting to see those type amenities as opposed to taking a plat that got the same number of lots and then it's all backyard. There is a benefit as well as that you can upsize the density when you go small. And for infill side of projects, that's a real plus because that community is now being serviced by an existing street that's maintained by the city of Nampa. It's being maintained, or it's being connected to sewer and water that's already in the street. But now if you upsize that density, your revenue side from a property value goes up, your utilization is better, your initial influx of payment of building permits and hookup fees and impact fees is much higher, and yet you have very little impact otherwise from that community because, again, this is a turnkey buyer. This isn't the buyer who's looking for playgrounds and pools and so forth. This is the buyer who's coming and going. So it's not for every plat. It's not going to be a flood of plats coming into you, but it's the aspect of meeting that need in the greenscape.
So just speaking for myself, Madam Mayor, I'd be in favor of looking at this, specifically.
Mayor, Council, David, thanks for coming. And it seems like Nampa, we pride ourselves on our statement as being pro-free market, and there's demands. And what you're asking for is more inclusionary zoning as opposed to more restrictive zoning. And I certainly support meeting market demands. I just wanted to briefly say, I know a voice of opposition to these sort of units is that they don't pay for themselves, but what's interesting is when you look at the assessed value over the entire acreage, it adds up, if not exceeds. It's sort of counterintuitive, but sometimes the more restrictive zoning for the larger lots, those homes are worth more, but how many you get in the total acreage is not as much as the number of homes that you would get in, and what you really have to compare the total assessed value on the acreage. So I just know that's one thing commonly here, and always love to have that conversation. And God bless the people who want to have large lawns and do hours of lawn work and weed work. But the history of even lawns being required is a very interesting study in zoning, and lawns are mostly underutilized space. So there's people who want to preserve some lawn, but not have to take care of a big lawn. So again, these are market demands, and I want Nampa to be a more inclusionary community. And I would make the case that these units are going to more than pay for themselves when you look at the whole project as a whole. So just thanks for coming, and you have my support. We're a free market city, so thumbs up. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, Counselor, that you recognize the value side, because some of the homes I spoke of in Lava Springs that are 1,400, 1,500, 1,600 square feet, they've sold in the last 1 to 12 months at $224 to $245 on a small lot. So the value is there, and they are paying for it themselves. They are bringing revenue in to the city proportionately to others. So just FYI, thank you.
Mayor Kling. Mr. Bills, and I know you've been pretty active in the community, doing a lot of building, of course, and you've got a good idea of the direction in our future. So thank you for that. One of the things that I was going to take a look at is, are these affordable? Are these subsidized? Are these senior living? Are these townhomes? And location. Locations are very important to me. I would think that if you were to have a property like these, that the amenities would be close to them: hospitals, grocery store, schools, and that helps that community and helps us as well. So I'm going to leave my eyes open on this one. I'm going to depend on you to show us the way in terms of which our city needs to go, and our council and our mayor, as to what's best for us. So is it best for us to not build our homes, but build these townhomes or build these subsidized or build these affordable housing? Can you kind of just give me an idea?
Well, personally, I believe in free market, and I understand there's times when the subsidized projects are warranted and they meet a segment of society's need. I also believe that there's a word used in the marketplace called affordable. It's used and misused. I think it's batted around, and I think it's misunderstood what is affordable and what leads to affordability. Less regulation means price will be lower. Higher restrictions, higher regulations increases the requirements. If you look at each year or every 2 years, if the building department adopts higher restrictions on the building code, things change, costs go up. Same thing happens on the development side, and costs go up, and so the value drives up. If you want to run your citizens out of the marketplace, keep adding to those codes, and soon your citizens are getting choked. 60 to 80% of the buyers right now are coming in from out of state for new construction. So even for existing homes as well, having sold one and closed here recently, out of state buyers. From the standpoint of what we're talking about is not attached housing. We're talking patio home, single family, trying to stay strictly single family. We're talking about a type of buyer that is, again, that turnkey come and go. They may be gone for a month at a time. They may be empty nesters who go. They may be the 28-year-old who hasn't decided what he's going to do in life, but he knows he needs to invest his earnings right now, so he's going to go into something. But the last thing he wants to do is get behind the lawnmower. It's not in his interest. I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek in a sense, but I well know from friends and family the circumstances about maintaining yards and what a portion of generation is trying to decide to do. So then when we talk affordability, you know, we're saying, is 225,000 an affordable house? Well, in the mean income of Nampa and Canyon County, that's a stretch. That's getting tough. And if the pricing keeps moving up for a 12, 14, 1,600 square foot basic home, hitting 185 to 220, that's pricing folks out of the market. So on one side, we want housing that pays for itself, new construction, and that it benefits our city. And the flip side is well, which buyers are buying those homes? The old adage that large lots meant large houses is not true. Nampa has plenty of home sites that are 7,000 to 9,000, 7,000 to 10,000, 7,000 to 12,000 square feet, and they have 1,100, 1,200, and 1,300 square foot homes on them. Because that was the direction in the 90s. And people said, oh, we want that yard, we want to have our family, etc. But 20 years later, the marketplace has shifted. And so this is not a substitute for all housing. This is allowing for a piece of a different type of housing to be included into the options.
Good, thank you. I would, counsel, I'd like to see this progress, this discussion go a little bit farther. Sounds like a good idea to me, so thank you, Mr. Bills.
Mayor Kling, one thing I would, as we're talking and I'm listening, the one thing that keeps coming back to me too is what David's talking about is a planned unit development that is a community. So it's developed as a community for people to want to be a part of. Lava Springs is somewhat of a little bit of community, but the areas that I talked about earlier are truly communities where people want to live. And so I think that's what we're talking about is the developers being able to bring forward a concept, and would we be willing to look at something that's a little bit different than the norm or what the norm's been. And I think we would be we need to be smart in what we're seeing come forward. And I think that what he's offering is what the market is going to be looking and demanding in the future as millennials are coming into the home ownership and wanting to have smaller homes, not larger acreages. So
Keep in mind that these type of projects and planned unit developments, and you see them in the marketplace here in the valley a little bit, but you see them in Ada County predominantly. And, but in other marketplaces, and you look at those HOA fees and you say, what, 200 a month? I'm used to paying 200 a year. And the reason being is because those expenses are being placed into the HOA, and you know that community, when you buy in there, it's going to be maintained. Some communities, like I'm communicating, even go so far as maintaining the exteriors. So they set aside that every year so many units get repainted, get upgraded. These are not, oh, this is going to be ghetto type housing. This is quality, good housing, and it's a marketplace that we're missing right now.
Shalimar is a great example of that.
David, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Hopefully you've gotten the feedback that's helpful for you to move forward.
Appreciate it very much. Council, thank you.
Thank you.
For taking the time tonight.
Thank you. It's time for staff communications. Tom Points, thank you.
Mayor, Council, good evening. So Nate and I are going to split up the staff report tonight. He's going to talk about some of the wastewater construction out at the plant at the tail end of the report. And the first item I wanted to cover was our workforce plan. So fiscal year 19 is coming up, and if you recall, engineering, Jeff Barnes had put together a workforce plan that stated that we were going to do less consulting and more in-house work. And by doing that, we were able to generate about $3 million worth of savings over a 5-year period that could be reallocated back to road projects. So this graph, which is also in your packet, shows over time what that plan is and how we plan to capture that. Jeff's gone through all the projects in 19 and figured out which ones would be consultants and which one would be in-house. So the yellow bar there is the in-house work that we're going to do that's going to be reallocated back to the roadway. So our goal in 19 is to do 11% of the designs in-house and 43% of them in inspections. So we got to thinking some about this, that most of the time we're coming to you asking for authorization of contracts, and you see a lot of consultant requests, and you're probably wondering, well, what's happening to all the in-house work? So I thought that we would kind of set the stage on the goal here of 400,000 on the savings this year. And then every quarter when we do our dashboard report, we'll come back and we'll be filling up that bucket, showing you our progress on the goals. So this is kind of just setting the stage for the future dashboards and project delivery. And we still are planning on delivering 100% of our projects in fiscal year 19 and designing and constructing them. That goal has not changed. This year, we've got 61 projects and about $19 million worth of work between the streets and water and sewer. So can I answer any questions about this? Our next item is FEMA and floodplains. So there's been some interest recently about floodplains in Nampa. We've actually had put in the fiscal year 19 budget, which is approved, to kick off a study about the FEMA floodplains in Nampa. So we're going to look at Indian Creek and Mason Creek. The consultant in which you have the scope of work for you from West Consulting, you can see what they have in their scope there is a look at all the pinch points where all the pipes are and help us evaluate which of those pinch points would give us the largest value to, once you remove that restriction, how it would reduce the floodplain behind it. That's one of the tasks. Another task will be to assemble all the existing data that we do have today. We do have some data that will help us with remapping with the FEMA floodplains. We do have some gauge station data over by the wastewater treatment plant and also historical rain gauge data. So we'll be compiling that. And then these folks, West Consulting, they're experts in what they do and helping us understand what we might be missing for data in order to ask FEMA to reconsider the floodplain. And you may recall the floodplain got adjusted back in 2008 by FEMA after the Hurricane Katrina. And so we asked for an exception back then because we didn't necessarily agree with the floodplain, and the answer came back that we need to have a data analysis. So this study will help us get to that point, and the study's about $35,000. Any questions I can answer about that?
Seeing none, thank you.
One more, if I can. Here we go. So the last item that I want to talk about before I turn it over to Nate is, like I said, this dashboard. You've seen this before. Every quarter we come and talk about our project delivery. So we're coming up at the end of fiscal year 18. So here's the projects that we were reporting on, 32 major projects, $17 million worth of work. And give Jeff Barnes and the team a huge amount of credit. They got all of them designed, all of them awarded, and they just have a few left there that didn't quite get constructed. But that's pretty good progress. I'm real proud of what they did. So, and compared to last year, they made some strides. They 85, about 84%. Last year constructed, so they got it up to 95. And every year they keep getting a little better. So, and this is the team. Give credit to the team. Jeff, he was the assistant city engineer over development or over project management to make this happen. Now Daniel, as a city engineer, is going to have a big piece into this. And we've been hiring, according to our workforce plans, some new folks. We got a couple new EIATs that are doing a real good job for us, so we're excited to have them. So that's it for me. Unless there's questions, I'll turn it over to Nate.
Tom, you guys have done a great job. Thank you. Excited about your team. And Michael, you did a great job too.
Mayor, council.
Welcome, Nate.
Good evening. Is that right? Mr. Foose is in the audience? I am doing the wastewater program update. Would council
We'd like to have him come up, yeah. See if he's lost it yet.
I bet he's still got it. So, this is the, every 2 months we come back with an update on Phase 1 construction. So if you remember, Phase 1 is actually 3 projects. We have the Group A project, which was the liquid solids, or liquid stream treatment. And happy to report that project is complete. We haven't quite gotten the contractor to fully demob. Ewing Construction, they actually are the low bidder on the Group C project that's on the agenda for later tonight. So depending on how that action goes, we may be fortunate enough to keep them around a little longer. And then the second project, Group B, also under construction, and it is about 70% complete. And when we get Group C going, we expect to have all of the projects completed by 2020. So Phase 1 was to get to our interim phosphorus limit that our NPDES permit outlines and has a deadline of May 1st, 2020. So this project, about $38 million is the estimated total cost. So far, we're on budget. Actually, Group A came in a little under budget. It was $18.5 million budgeted, came in at 18.4. And we are looking good budget-wise to complete the project. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Nate? Nope. Thank you. So that concludes our staff communications, and moving on to unfinished business. As per earlier, item number 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 have been postponed. And so item number 4.4 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to IL with development agreement for industrial development for parcel numbers R3100400000 and R3100401100. Oh my goodness, are you going to read all these? Or shall I keep reading all the zeros? I'm not sure if I need to read these all and you're going to repeat them.
I don't have them in mind, no.
Okay, so I'm going to keep reading the zeros. So the rest of the parcel numbers are R3100401000, R3101501000, and R3100500000, surrounding and including 16622 Madison Road for Burke and Karen Hansen. Thank you for reading it.
An ordinance determining that certain lands made up of 5 parcels surrounding and including 16622 Madison Road, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 50.773 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa as part of the IL zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
So I would look for a motion to approve this action item and with the request to pass it under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Item number 4.5 is also an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS6 for the Edmonds Hollow subdivision on the west side of North Middleton Road between West Hollow Avenue and Orchard Avenue for Riley Planning Services representing Rosalind Edmonds.
An ordinance determining that certain lands lying on the west side of North Middleton Road between West Willow Avenue and Orchard Avenue, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 9.903 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said lands should be annexed into the city of Nampa, Idaho, as part of the RS6 family zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
We're also looking to pass this under suspension of rules, and I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Ogable,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
So pending ordinances, actually, we have one, less the other three, which will come forward in the future. And moving on to number 6, new business. So we're going to do 6.2 prior to 6.1. It is an action item. And 6.2 is to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract with the Nampa Wastewater Treatment Facility Phase 1 Group C upgrades with Ewing Company, and authorize Public Works Director to approve expenditures within the budget. And Nate is here to answer any questions or to explain it.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Who was the second?
I was.
I had a question, Mayor, Council.
You are welcome to
Okay.
ask your question.
Neat. So just, this was action item 6.2 that's been moved and
Yes.
seconded? Okay, just want to clarify. I've noticed that the award of the bid is to Ewing, is that correct? That's,
Yes, that is.
and we've done work with this group before, I noticed in the packet.
Yes.
Okay.
They just completed our.
I had one question that, about, there's disparity in the bids again. Right? I don't, we see one bid that's almost twice as much as this bid. I'm just wondering with all that, if, one question I was asked, so I'm just representing a constituent who is wondering whether or not this group, for example, in the past, if they had lots of change orders over the course of past projects where they end up collecting a lot more money that wasn't foreseen in the original bid on the project. I know that's a big question.
Yeah, Mayor,
Okay.
Counselor. I think, was there 2 questions, or?
Yeah, I'm wondering if, when
Yeah,
we
I
look at
just-
the bidding process, we go with the lowest bid.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering the history of change orders with the group. And I know that there's change orders that are absolutely unforeseen, tied to the project, and the group should not be penalized, or whether a group gains a reputation for having lots of change orders, and they're kind of gaming the system, is where this constituent was wondering whether or not the change orders is built into how they bid the project so low to underbid to get the project, and then there's lots of change orders to follow. If there's a mechanism to track change orders and how we do reporting on that, and what the reputation of this group is.
Mayor and Counselor, we have possibly the best mechanism. We have Stantec engineers on this one, and Mr. Foose is leading.
Oh,
Stantec
hey, Michael.
Now, a good set of plans can only get you so far. So those are legitimate questions. First, the spread on the bids. I believe it was from just over $5.25 million to the low bid of Ewing's at just over $3.3 million. We were very pleased to see 8 bids. Now, 3 of those bids, Ewing at 3.3, JC Constructors, who was working on Group B project, they came in at 3.5 million. And then McIlvain came in at 3.7. Now, that spread of those 3 local contractors is right where you'd like to be. Now, to address the change orders, that could be a reference to the Group A project, which we just discussed. There was over $1 million in change orders on Group A. Nearly 1 million of that was to address issues on the existing plant that arose during construction, including a almost $700,000 change order to install additional pumps and equipment on the primary effluent pump station, which was a capacity issue that was not known at the time the contract was awarded, and actually helped the city out considerably.
That's good. Thanks, Nate. I just wanted to ask, so it's answered on the record, and I can point constituents to this conversation if they want more information. So thanks, I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Nate, under the review of the bid, it shows that Ewing included $42,194 for the waste gas flare itemized work. What is that? And also, is that number included in the bid?
Yes. Mayor, Councilor, the waste gas flare, so this project is constructing a digester. We have 2, 3 other digesters, and the gas from there is either burned off through this flare or is used to generate hot water to heat the digesters and the building out at the plant. So that's what the flare does. It burns digester gas.
I see.
And then the value for that item is included in the total bid amount.
Oh, I see. Okay. I didn't know what that was, but thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so we've had it's been moved and seconded, and this is the discussion phase. If there's no other discussion, I would call for roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Okay, going back to item 6.1, this is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor and public works director to sign professional services agreement standard terms and conditions and the task order with Stantec for engineering services during the construction for the wastewater treatment plant Phase 1 upgrades, Project Group C, which is the new primary digester number 4.
Madam Mayor, just a question. Are we still planning on public hearings at 7, or has that agenda been changed?
I thank you for reminding me.
I think we need to complete what we just stated, but okay.
I appreciate it because I
thought maybe
totally
something I had not
forgot.
read, okay.
No, thank you. Good grief. So we'll finish 6.1 and then we'll do public hearings. I can't believe I totally forgot.
Well,
Excuse me.
Mayor Kling, I'd go ahead and make the motion to authorize the award of the bid.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Darrell, thank you. I appreciated your catch on that.
I thought maybe they weren't out here.
No.
Okay.
So we do have 2 public hearings this evening, and I apologize for actually forgetting it's after 7. So, thank you. Our first public hearing this evening is obviously it's an action item. It's a variance to City Planning Zoning Ordinance 10-10-6D and 10-10-9 for a corner lot that has been previously split, requiring a 20-foot setback and a 10-foot side street setback. The applicant has requested a 5-foot setback from the property lines facing 18th Avenue North and a 7-foot street side setback for 18th Avenue North on the 5th Street north side. This is for proposed dwellings on 2 existing lots located at 419 18th Avenue North and 18th Avenue North within an RD, which is 2-family duplex residential zoning district for Syed
Pedraza.
Thank you. Victor, thank you for
You're
always
welcome.
saving me there. Norm, well, actually, is the applicant here this evening? Okay, I am not seeing the applicant this evening, and so staff report, Norm.
Yes, the applicant, for the lots that are shown on the overhead. I'm going to give you an aerial photo. Shows the two lots here. There's a little bit of history that I've illustrated in the staff report regarding how these properties were split. The applicant basically purchased these properties as they presently exist. In 1991, Mr. Garza and his wife acquired the property from the Goodmans, and they were two 50 by 140 lots, the two on the corner, which includes the house behind the two lots here that are shown. Subsequently, in 2006, the Garzas deeded portions of that parcel to the Martinez with two different descriptions, and created basically those two properties that the applicant purchased. And then this Mr. Orvale deeded the parcels to Pedraza actually last spring, in May. And he came forward hoping to build on them. He initially came forward with a site plan that was not very well descripted to us, and so we couldn't issue the building permit, and it didn't show the dimensions of the lots properly, so we went out and retained someone to better show a site plan for what he's proposing here. And I'm not claiming to support his request, I want you to know that, but he claims that he's ordered his materials on one of these lots for a footprint that he thought would fit within setbacks, but after we got the correct description on the parcels, he realized he needed a 5-foot setback on the front instead of a 20-foot setback. So it's a variation of 15 feet of setback on the front of these two parcels. He's only seeking to build on the 419 18th Avenue North parcel presently, but as he owns the other parcel, he wants to do the same thing on the other lot in the future, so he's seeking the variance on both parcels at this time. So in any event, you have in the staff report also, that's the frontage showing the parcels from the roadway. That's the site plan that shows how the homes would be placed on each lot. So the front setback on each of these would be a minimum of 5 feet from 18th Avenue North. The side setbacks would be complying with 5 feet on both sides on the interior lot, and the corner lot would comply on this side with 5 feet. He's seeking a reduction from 10 feet to 7 feet on the Fifth Street side of that corner parcel, which he would build on in the future. So that's the basic reason for the variances. I believe that he could actually put a smaller footprints on these and not need the setback, the variances that he's needed. But I'm not here to represent that. He claims that he's got his materials and he needs to build what he wants to build there. And he did go out and get the legal description formalized, so we really knew what we were dealing with. We didn't know whether we were dealing with a portion of the lot behind or not originally. But once it was defined, I think, we realized that he needed that 5-foot setback on the front, that wouldn't fly. So we needed the variance. And that's about it. Any questions on that?
Mayor Kling. I guess it's my microphone that's making all the noise. The homes to the, well, I'm not sure which way is north, but the other homes that are on 18th Avenue North, below them to the left, they're in compliance at 20-foot setback, is that correct?
I think we looked at that, and those are actually 15-foot setback on both of those. So we felt justified initially. Initially, when we saw the site plan that he had proposed, we thought he had proposed a 15-foot setback, and he
Okay.
just needed a 5-foot variance. but once we realized the true parameters of the lot, and he could have easily, I think, I think the code allows him to go to a 15 if the adjacent ones are also 15. So he wouldn't need a variance to do a 15-foot setback there. But he
Okay.
did to go to 5 foot.
And that was the point I was going to make next then, if that was the case. And then looking at the floor plan proposed, like you say, it could easily be adapted to meet the footprint requirement and the setback of 15.
Reduce the size of the homes and alter his construction materials. I don't know that he's really purchased them, but he indicated that he had. So
Well, it's proving the hardship of the variance is, because you've already bought materials, that's kind of that's a tough one to justify, but, okay, well, you've answered my question. Thank you, Norm.
Are there any other questions for Norm?
Mayor? Norm, according to looking at the footprint here that he's designed of the two units, where it runs along Fifth Street North, that 7-foot variance, does that take you right up to the street, or is there a sidewalk?
no, there'll be sidewalk required along that side. And there still would be a 7 of the 10 feet. So there's a portion of that that's from the right-of-way that is still away from the sidewalk as far as so there is, it appears as more than 7 feet because you've got that landscape strip.
Follow-up question, please. Norm, would this zoning allow for like a townhouse, like a smaller footprint?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
He could do, these lots are larger than what, we typically have the corner lots where we allow the split, and you can go down to 50 by 65. These are both 50 by 70, I believe. No, they're more than that. They're 100 by 70. Let's see. No, they're 50 by 70. They're 50 by 70, so they're typical size than what we see a lot of these corner lots split with a pretty decent little single-family home on, and they meet setback.
Any other further questions?
Yeah, Mayor, Norm, is the 2-car garage, the 2 off-street parking spots for each
Yes.
unit required?
That's what what he wants is the 2-car garage, and that would satisfy that requirement.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Any further questions? Thank you, Norm. So this is a public hearing, and there is no one signed up to testify in favor of or against this particular request. Is there anyone here tonight that had intended to testify that did not get signed up? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public testimony.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I say that in that the applicant is also not here. And so at this time, are there any further questions for staff?
Madam
The
Mayor,
council just-
so just clarify, did I hear you say you thought it was a 15-foot setback for the other properties? Is that what I hear? Would you?
I think we looked at that.
And so he would not need a variance if the other properties are 15
Built
feet?
those front setbacks at 15.
Okay.
I don't think we have a problem with a 10 to 7 on that one street side, but and again, we typically haven't taken a position on these variances, but this is so much of a departure, going down to 5 feet, that I think he could
Okay.
do a better job with a different footprint of the
Okay.
dwelling, yeah.
Thanks. Well, if we're ready, I'd make a motion.
And I regret that he wasn't here to do
Well,
this
and I don't,
position.
yeah. And he was given proper notice, correct?
Before you make your motion.
Yes.
um,
Go ahead.
I would state that I wouldn't support the current request, but I would support a variation of this to reduce, or to limit his setback on 18th to 15 feet, allowing the reduction of the side street setback on Fifth as requested. But he could easily vary his footprints to even go with a 0 lot line between the 2 units and make this thing work, or even just downsize the unit as proposed to get that 15-foot setback. So that's what I would support.
Councilman Haverfield, I was going to make that motion, but you stated it much more in detailed fashion, so why don't you go ahead and make the motion?
Okay. I would make a motion to allow the variance as proposed, with the exception that the frontage setback on 18th Avenue North be the 15-foot minimum to the front of the home, allowing the reduction in the side yard setback on Fifth Street North as proposed. And other than that, I think I'm supporting what they're proposing otherwise.
And that's with the conditions of,
Yes, with the stated conditions of approval in the report.
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Can you, Councilman Haverfield, I'm sorry, go ahead, Levi. Councilwoman Levi, sorry.
Thank you. Mayor, I was just going to make the comment that without the applicant being here and us making the changes, I kind of feel somewhat uncomfortable with doing that.
And I second that. I was just about to say that.
That was his choice, though.
I know. And Mayor, if I could. Therefore, I will be voting no on this until the applicant has the ability to be here and talk with us and put his point across.
I might mention that I think there was a little bit of a language barrier there, and maybe that's partly why he didn't come, I don't know. But he had I believe his son, when he came into the office with us, that helped us communicate, so I think he may have been able to have somebody here, but maybe he was just a little intimidated by being here. But the other thought that I had on this was that, now I seem to have forgotten it. Anyway, that we would notify him, if you did go ahead with the motion as proposed, that we would notify him that the plan would have to be revised, and submitted at the time of building permit in accordance with the variance, so that he knew that if he went ahead.
Sandy?
Thank you, Mayor. So to clarify my statement and also follow up with that, according to what the applicant has originally requested and according to the definition of variance, I don't see the hardship according to request. With what Councilman Haverfield offered, I do appreciate that, but again, I just have a problem making those changes without the applicant being here.
So I have a question. If we deny this, what is the next step for the applicant?
Well, he would basically need to submit something that complied, for his building permit. His lots would comply with the proper setbacks. He just had to revise his plans.
Mayor?
Yes.
Would there be a charge to make the change?
Not as far as, not from us. He'd have to get his site plan redrawn by somebody and then redesign on his house. So that would be a charge that he'd pay out of his own pocket.
Thank you.
So what I think I'm hearing from the council, just to get a pulse for where we are, is not to approve it as stated. Some would rather just pause, and others would approve a
Well,
setback different.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
in actuality, we're giving him, or granting him the opportunity to move forward. We're basically stating that he'd be in compliance at a 15-foot setback. The only thing he's really asking for is a reduction in the setback on Fifth Street North. So in reality, we're giving him what he's asking for. The fact that he's not here, that's his choice. This process was set up to allow them to come forward and get or seek our guidance or approval or denial. And we're giving him, I think, pretty much what he's asking for with a minor modification. So that's just my point.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
With all due respect to what Councilman Haverfield said, I do understand that, but as our staff has indicated, there might have been a language barrier, and if that might have been the reason that he wasn't here this evening, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't, as a courtesy, explore that.
I'll just call for the vote then.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and at that, roll call.
Rodriguez?
No.
Ogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
No.
Skog?
Yes.
Bruder?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, so item 8.2 is our second public hearing for this evening, and this is annexation and zoning to light industrial at 58 and 0 North Kings Road for construction of storage units. This is a combined 3.87 acre or 168,577 square feet portion of the south half of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 24, T3N R2WBM for Cody Lane with Trek Investment Group. Is the applicant with us today? Thank you. Thank you for giving us your name and address. And
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Chris Broders. I'm the representative of Cody Lane. My address is 800 West Main Street in Boise, Idaho. I am the architect designer of this facility, and what we are proposing is to annex this property next to the airport, and annex it in for light industrial for a storage facility. The storage facility would consist of RV storage on the inside, which is just going to have a big shed roof on it, open, make it easy for RVs to get in and out of it. Around the perimeter would be enclosed storage units and what we would call a fortress-style design, where we are using the buildings to create a wall on the outside. So the way it used to be, you put a chain link fence up, put all your buildings on the inside, people drive around on the outside. What we're going to do is put buildings on the outside, drive on the inside, so we can use that outside wall as a dual purpose. On the north and south of the property, we are going to have what we call climate-controlled storage. And this will allow for storage year-round and people not worrying about their belongings getting too cold or too hot, depending on what's going on outside. And then we do have a small office in the north area by the main entry with a couple parking stalls. And that office would only be maintained Monday through Friday, kind of an 8 to 5, 9 to 9 kind of situation, with having a key fob or a code to get in and out of the facility. On the south side, we have an emergency access, and that is for the fire department to get additional fire trucks in there or to exit the facility instead of driving all the way around. We just find that that's a lot easier and helps facilitate them a lot better. We haven't quite worked out the design yet, exactly the look of the facility, but we would have, we're kind of going back and forth with kind of a contemporary but yet nice look in there. We know this is an industrial area, but we still want to make it nice, warm, and friendly for the town. We don't expect it to be a heavy impact on everybody because people will be coming in late evenings or on weekends to the area. Is there any questions? No, I kind of went kind of fast, so I apologize.
I guess we have none, but you will have the opportunity to come back at the conclusion of the public hearing. So thank you very much. Norm.
We go through this. Again, this is on the request has been recommended by the Planning Commission for approval of the annexation of the zoning to light industrial. This is not a development agreement situation. The applicant would be coming back for building permits to construct a permitted use, and the requirements for the light industrial zone would be applied in this case to the storage project and meet the landscaping, et cetera, requirements of the light industrial zone. So they aren't reiterated for any reason in here. The actual appearance of the units would be as the applicant would propose, unless there was a desire to have a development agreement that would control the appearance of these units from the roadway. You do have in the staff report an example of some of the drawings that they presented to the Planning Commission regarding again, as he indicated, they may not have finalized how the units would appear, but that was an example from the interior side that they showed what the units would look like. Beyond that, as I indicated, it is a permitted use there, and it is annexing a portion of an enclaved area. This property is 3.7 acre of about 130 acre enclaved area, so it does bring a piece into the city that is on the comp plan for this type of use, and there are other industrial type uses further north along the roadway there to the north. Any questions?
Madam Mayor, if I may, reiterate for me, please, if you would, Norm, again, what's the reason there's not a development agreement? It seems like our last two storage areas that we have approved, we require development agreements to see the design, et cetera, of those.
Yeah, in both of those cases, there was residential or adjacent portion. And this is basically surrounded by, with the exception of the property to the east and to the north. It's kind of an enclaved area that's totally in the county. You can see that on this.
Okay, so it's more industrial that is next to it, but we're still hovering along a roadway, correct?
Right, you're along the roadway here with the frontage.
Is the properties,
Rural residential parcels back in here to the west, some of which are on the comp plan for future industrial use, but they're not annexed.
is the property south of this, though, that is for sale currently, is that correct? Is that open country that could be actually developed? I think I'm trying to envision exactly where this is, and if I remember correctly, this is not developed and it is for sale currently, which would speak to the potential development agreement to ensure the design
Well,
standards.
I'm very reluctant without it, I realize you're saying it's around industry, but there's open land around there, and as far as the roadway, I'm just reluctant to okay this without a development agreement.
Yeah,
But that's me, so.
Yeah, and that, in the prior instances of storage units, there was quite a bit of community input on those that kind of forced that issue to some degree. In this case, at the planning commission level, there was never a question raised by anybody on it. So it is up to you whether you want to require a development agreement. Of course, the applicant, it is a contract, so they would have to agree to whatever terms you wanted to implement as part of that.
Any further questions for Norm? Okay, so this is a public hearing, and there is no one signed up to testify on behalf of or not supporting this particular issue. Is there anyone here tonight that had intended to testify on this subject tonight? Okay, seeing none, it's an opportunity for the applicant to come back if you'd like to respond to any of the questions that you heard.
In your question about a development agreement, we would have no problem generating one. With this being as close as it is to the airport, I believe that the airport is just to the north, a little bit of it.
North.
Yeah, north and west.
Northeast.
So residential there may not be as wanted, but you never know. You never know these days where people want to live. So going with a development agreement's very easy. Again, we have not started working up the designs on this or the look of the facility. We do know that we're not going to do a chain link fence with wooden, such as I believe King's Storage is currently just up the road from us. So we're going to bring this a little bit into the modern day, which is, like I said, a fortress design where we use that exterior to our benefit to help the security of everything. But if you would like a
Thanks.
development group, would be.
Well, that is me. That's how I will be voting to okay this, is with a development agreement.
No problem.
Thanks.
Mayor?
Yes?
Thank you. Just a question, sir. Your name again?
My name is Chris Broders.
Sorry about that. I neglected to get that, Chris. Without a development agreement, as Councilman Bruner was speaking of, you're aware, or let me ask, are there height restrictions, FFA requirements that you have to adhere to if you're that close to the airport?
Yes, we would, and our typical building wouldn't be more than about 25 foot tall if we did at the office, just as a way to put a notice of that's the entrance, kind of a tower type element or just a little bit higher element so people know that that is the main entrance. But it's looking at an element that be anywhere probably between 20, 25 feet at most, more than likely. We wouldn't want to go anything taller than that, just for economics of scale.
Thank you.
Mayor
Randy?
Kling. Chris, you've brought up a couple of times now that it's near proximity to the airport. Have you, did you ask about the FAA? Oh, okay.
Height.
Only from a height standpoint, have you had any conversation as far as with Monty at the airport or with the FAA as far as on non-reflective surfaces on the top of these buildings?
Not at this time. We're just kind of taking that first step to annex the property in. That would be our next step as we go through design review and such. We would reach out to them and make sure we were,
Are you subject to design review approval?
yes.
Okay, that was the question I didn't ask Norm. I don't believe that you are. Okay. Okay, so that would fall back in line with Councilman Bruner's point about a development agreement. And again, with, is this in the RPZ or the runway protection zone for the airport?
I don't believe we are.
Okay, so you still should be subject then, depending on your proximity with the reflective surfaces that you might be able to put or not put on your rooftops, which is a value, obviously a cost associated with non-reflective versus reflective.
Yes.
But again, I'll side with Councilman Bruner's point that we do need to have a development agreement as a part of this. But that was my main question that I wanted to ask you, is if you had any contact yet with anyone at the airport or with the FAA.
Not at this time.
All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Are there any, this is a
Yes,
question for the applicant.
Well, are we done with
Robert?
Norm? Okay,
No, you
Norm?
can go ahead. We haven't closed the public hearing,
Okay.
but we will in a moment, so.
Okay, I have a quick question for Norm. Based on the map, there's, there's a projected anticipated pathway along Mason Creek. Would this development in any way interfere with that?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll bet Darren. I don't know whether that path is planned to go along that section of Mason Creek.
I didn't know if it was on.
I don't think it was mentioned in any reviews that we typically have our planner Carla look at.
Cody is present. Would you like to, Cody, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. Typically on the different plats that come through, if there is a master planned pathway along the Mason Creek, it's just the determination is typically which side of the creek makes the most sense for that pathway to be located. So if it made the most sense for it to be located on the side of the creek that this development would be on, Parks would request that.
Okay, all right, thanks. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, council discussion. Is there further?
I'd like to hear what Councilman Bruner's development agreement items might be.
Well, I just want, Councilman Haverfield, as far as I just want to see what the design is, landscaping, as far as he says the fortress type construction, but I'd just like to see what the overall project's going to look like from a viewer from the road.
And that's Kings Road. So as far as around the perimeter of this, they're backing the project or the buildings right up to the property line, so there isn't any landscape requirements there or proposed. But again, I would look for the same thing. What is the setback?
And
What
you
is
being, and Councilman Haverford, you being the architect and you're, have been involved in past, construction projects like this. I mean, I'm just wanting it to be as site-worthy as possible for the Nampa citizens, so, even though it is close to industry, yeah.
So I guess my
So I don't have a specific, answer to your question, I don't have a specific, I guess I was under the understanding a development agreement would show
that we'd want to see those elevations.
comprehensive elements, so.
Okay. All right, Mayor Kling, that's just what I wanted clarity on as far as what he's looking for, and I understand, I mean, our projects that we developed in this nature, we do provide that type of illustration so that there's a knowledge coming in as to what they're proposing.
So it sounds like, I'm just thinking about the discussion I'm hearing, it sounds like there could be a favorable support for this, but but the need for a development agreement and the opportunity for the design to be compatible for future development that could be coming in here. So I'm not sure how we need to phrase that.
So, Madam Mayor, do we need to table this until a development agreement, or what needs to happen? You tell me the protocol, or maybe our attorney can help with that.
I think we just need the motion to include it, but Maren, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Mayor and Council, you can have a motion to include a development agreement and then work with staff or direct staff to work with the applicant in phrasing those requirements. They probably would like some direction on what you would like to see in a development agreement, or you can bring it back for development agreement approval. And if that would be that you want to see the design and approve the design, it would be bringing that development agreement back, and then it would be an agenda item just for that development agreement.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
how specific can we get, since we're not a design review? There's no design review requirement, since it's not on a gateway. What level of design review are we looking for at this level? That's the question.
What are we allowed, I guess, is
Yeah, so you're being subjective, and I mean, I could lend a good eye to
You
it.
can be at whatever level you want as your conditions,
Okay,
yeah.
well, it's gonna be site
I think it would
obscuring.
be helpful to stipulate what you want to see in the way of landscaping as well as the building facade.
Norm, while you're up, what's the setback requirement off of Kings Road to the frontage of these buildings? 20 feet?
I believe it's 20 on an arterial at that location for the light industrial.
Okay, 20 feet to the building wall of the proposed units is what we're talking about here. So the landscaping would then be in that 20-foot area.
It could be in that area, yes.
Okay.
Mayor Kling, the question to the council, do we want to restrict or lead the way for the developer, or do we want the developer to lead us in their proposal? I'm not sure.
Well, I think that we can work with staff to help identify some parameters for this, and then I would recommend that we would have you come back for approval based on the design approval, just bring that back before the council. So we could just ask staff to help lead and guide that discussion. Because I think we pretty much know what we need to, where we need to go. And so would that work with the council? If we have the applicant work with staff, and we would approve this based on a development agreement that we put in place, and it comes back before council for final approval?
Mayor, yeah, I'm okay with that. This is a permitted use within the master plan. It seems like my fellow council members are concerned about the aesthetics, or it being ugly, or it maybe messing up airplanes landing or something of that sort. So if Monty were to set his eyes on it and that was included or something in the final development agreement, it was included. I don't want to say no to annexation of it within, it's a permitted use within our master plan, so, but I understand the concern. So I'll defer to however the motion will be made to include all of that so that it gets passed. So.
And I think the request for a development agreement will include FAA compliance. And really all that is you have a reflective silver surface for your roof, or you're going to have a colored roof that absorbs light and not reflects it. That's as easy as it comes, but that is a requirement that the FAA will place on anything in their runway protection zone or in their general flyover area. So that's just something that should be included in the development agreement that you would be working out. As far as from our standpoint, what we've heard is it's a fortress style, which means it's site obscuring around the perimeter. You're not looking into the development. It's low impact. We've had this conversation before, so it's a good project. It's in the right location since it's already been approved for use there. So I'm in favor of it, but again, putting the benchmarks around it, or I guess the guard posts around it, we just need to make sure that what we're directing staff to do, they understand. And to set an unrealistic standard on this location versus what might be on another urban setting are two different things. So, but I think what I'm hearing from the developer or the developer's representative is that they do want to create something good. So what Norm's asking for is what kind of materials would you like to see? Is it metal, stucco, stone? So if you're going to place those kind of parameters on it, then you need to be ready then to say, yeah, I like that or I don't like that, if it's a part of a development agreement. I'm talking too much. I'll make a motion.
There we go.
That's good.
You might also put in the pathway stuff.
Where's the pathway going to be then? Along that,
It's gonna be along the creek.
along the Mason Creek? So what's the setback then for the units or the buildings on that side?
I haven't prepared to tell you that.
Okay,
This Cody,
okay.
we haven't
Make-
closed, right? We haven't closed yet? Or have we closed?
The city typically requests 20 feet from top of bank.
Okay. So again, a part of the development agreement will be to work with staff to meet the requirements for that pathway, for the setbacks along Kings Street. My motion is to approve the development, support planning and zoning's recommendations as listed in our packet, conditions of approval, and to also include a development agreement that stipulates that the elevations for the proposed outer walls of, or perimeter walls of the site will be brought back before council for review. Landscaping will be defined and also brought back to council for review along Kings Street. And that the staff will work with the developer to make sure that FAA standards are met along with city planning, or city Parks and Rec, are a part of the conversation as well.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call?
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruder?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes?
Skog?
Yes.
Ogaboom?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you. So that concludes our public hearings. We're going to go back to our new business. We have a few more items on our new business agenda. And we will go back to item 6.3. So item 6.3 is an action item authorizing the engineering division to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for the Isaiah Drain culvert replacement on the Midway Road project.
So moved. Second.
I think it's been moved and seconded. Good job. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes?
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Ogaboom?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6.4 is an action item for the council to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for the Midland Boulevard Supply and Transmission Pipeline Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes?
Skog?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, item 6.5 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexing into the Nampa Municipal Irrigation District. I'll let you read it, and then if there are any questions, Tom.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, annexing a portion of the underlying irrigation district into the municipal irrigation district of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly.
Okay, so I'm going to mention that there is a request to pass this under suspension of rules, and item 6.6 is the summary of publication. It's like what we did last time for the preceding ordinance. And so if we want to combine the two in a motion, if you want to approve the summary of publication for the preceding ordinance with the ordinance
So move as the mayor stated with the
With the summary of-
Summary of
yeah,
pub-
suspension rules.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion?
So we are authorizing 6.5 and 6.6?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
And 6.7 is an action item to authorize to approve the final closeout change order with Idaho Materials and to authorize the state-local agreement with ITD for the 11th Avenue North Railroad Crossing Safety Grant.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So our next action item will wait until after executive session, and we will be adjourning into executive session. And I'm going to read both action items, and I would stand for a motion on both 7.1 and 7.2. 7.1 is a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061C to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency. And we have two items there, and then a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061J to consider contract matters authorized under Section 67234.5A, 74206A, 1A, and B, according to Idaho Code.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, and this is a motion to adjourn into executive session for both. Thank you. Roll call?
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Hogaboom?
Yes.
So we will be reconvening in this room for one additional action item, and hopefully it won't be a long executive session. No, we do not. Actually, are we all here? We lost Amy again.
Action item
Well, we're not on. Yeah, thank you.
I want to make a
We're just
motion,
gonna, okay. So you're on.
if it's okay.
So, and it is to
You changed the
authorize
language.
the mayor
Yes.
to sign the letter. Are we live?
Yes.
We are live internet-wise. Okay, so I do want to say one thing real quickly, that we're coming back in after being in executive session, and just so the public knows that there are no decisions or votes that take place during executive session. As we reconvene, we do have one additional action item, 6.8, on the agenda, and this is an action item asking, authorizing the mayor to sign a letter of intent for the purchase of a portion of Stoddard Pathway. So, looking for a motion.
So moved.
And second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Hogaboom.
Yes.
Thank you, and I would stand for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry.